We live in a world that is just obsessed with youth. So, what does that mean for old age? What's its purpose? Today, we're going to dive into the truly transformative vision of Pope Francis, drawing from his powerful series of teachings on what it really means to grow old. So, here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at what Pope Francis calls the throwaway culture. That's the core problem. Then, we'll explore his incredible alternative vision, unpack the unique gifts of the elderly, talk about why an alliance between generations is so crucial, and discover the surprising spiritual purpose of later life. And we'll wrap up with his incredibly hopeful conclusion. All right, let's start with the big societal issue that Pope Francis really challenges head-on. He kicks off his whole reflection with this fundamental question. Seriously, why is there so much anxiety, so much fear around a part of life that's completely natural and inevitable? He argues it all comes from a deep misunderstanding of what makes a person valuable. And he has this really powerful name for it, the throwaway culture. Think about it. It's a culture that measures your worth by how efficient and productive you are. In that kind of world, if you're not producing, if your career is over, you're at risk of being seen as a burden, someone to be pushed aside, or, well, thrown away. But here's the thing. He doesn't just point out the problem, he offers this profound and honestly beautiful alternative. And the contrast is just stark. I mean, look at this. The throwaway culture says your value is your productivity, that aging is just decline, the older are a burden, and the big goal is this impossible quest for eternal youth. Pope Francis's vision flips every single one of those ideas. He says no, value is found in wisdom and tenderness. Aging is a time of witness and grace. The old aren't a burden. They're the essential roots of our society. And the goal isn't eternal youth, it's eternal fulfillment. It's a complete paradigm shift. Okay, so if value isn't just about productivity, what exactly is the unique gift of old age in this new vision? It all starts with this idea that it's a two-way street. He argues that the elderly have this irreplaceable kind of wisdom, a clarity you can only get from a long life, and that's an essential gift for the next generation. It's not a one-sided thing. Pope Francis breaks this wisdom down into 4 key roles. He says elders are the keepers of memory, our living connection to the past in a world that can feel so disconnected. They embody a special tenderness that our often harsh, competitive world desperately needs. They offer perspective, becoming like a good wine that's aged to perfection. And they can act as prophets, seeing through the illusions of a life that's built only on selfish pleasure. Now, this wisdom isn't meant to be kept in a box. The whole vision isn't just about valuing the elderly from a distance. It's about rebuilding that vital bridge between the young and the old. Pope Francis calls this connection a covenant or an alliance, and he sees it as absolutely essential for our future. He warns that without this bridge, a society loses its roots, and it loses its vision. So how do we actually build this alliance? Well, it's about concrete actions. It's about that mutual enrichment. It means we have to actively fight the isolation that separates generations. And maybe the most important part is about sharing stories. Because, as he says, faith and history aren't really passed down in textbooks, but in the intimate, personal dialect of family. You know what he means. It's the unique way your grandmother tells a story, with her specific lessons. That's the dialect he's talking about. So, beyond all the social value, Pope Francis argues that old age also presents this profound and unique spiritual opportunity. And he introduces this fascinating concept he calls the magisterium of frailty. Now, magisterium is just a term for teaching authority, so he's saying that frailty itself, the very thing our culture is terrified of and tries to hide, actually has a unique authority to teach us some profound spiritual truths. This teaching of frailty offers some crucial lessons for a world that's just obsessed with strength. It counters what he calls spiritual anesthesia, our numbness to real compassion. It teaches us to embrace our limits, which brings humility into a world that's all about self-promotion. It reframes old age not as a decline, but as a new and powerful form of discipleship, and it allows for unique focus on what's truly eternal. This all leads us to the final and, I think, the most hopeful part of this whole vision, how old age completely reframes our ultimate destination. First off, the Pope goes right after the ultimate fear that fuels our culture's obsession with youth, the fear of death. And he argues it is simply not the end of the story. Instead, he reframes it. Death isn't a termination, it's a passage. It's a transformation into a life that's even fuller and more real than the one we know now. And that perspective changes everything. It means that a life lived in faith isn't just winding down to a quiet end. It's actually building toward a climax. This is the ultimate message of his teaching. From this viewpoint, old age becomes a time of eager, joyful anticipation, not a time of anxiety and decline. So this really leaves us with a final thought to ponder. In our constant race to stay young, to remain productive, to hide our frailty, what essential wisdom about life, about love, and about our ultimate purpose are we choosing to leave behind?